Go.
Hi there, everyone, and welcome to our weekly DVMUG meeting. Today is June 24th, 2025, and believe it or not, we're in temperature differences beyond belief. Yesterday it was burning up, today it's nice. Anyway, I have some news. There's a few items of news regarding the new operating system 26. Followed by a few videos. And later on, we'll have question and answers, and I'll be quick, and so we'll have a lot of time asking questions. I'm Bruce. You all know me. The links to today's news and videos are on the BBS, and also will be in the chat. John will put it in there, or someone else is going to drag that in there. So you don't have to go to the BBS. And just in case you do need to go to the BBS and you have a problem or an issue, John Sobrero and Ann Giffen are the two admins that'll help you out and get you out of trouble. Don't uh, hesitate calling each one of them, especially John. He's always on the phone with somebody. So anyway. This is being recorded. It also will be posted on YouTube later on, and let's move on with the news. Um, as I always say, make sure you update, make sure your equipment is up to date because there are people out there just waiting for a chance to get at it. And that being said, let's go to the news. The new iOS update fixes the most annoying part of sharing an iPhone. That is sharing using the share sheet or share icon on the iPhone. I don't know about anybody else, but when I do, when I use it, the couple of reasons. One is for messages, and the other one is for print, basically. But there is everything else in there, believe it or not. You share it with this, you share it with that, share it with books, share it with Apple News or whatever else you've got on there, or even Downy, I believe is in there. Well, I I've printed off some notes here, and according to Apple, they've redefined the iPhone share sheet. That's that little icon with the up arrow where you press that and a whole bunch of stuff shows up, and one of them is print. Anyway, all this on top of all that,
Lee has to be muted.
on on top of all that, excuse me.
Yeah, we just wanted to. Meeting words. They said she said,
Hold on, please. Who's?
Somebody needs to do some muting.
I'm looking. Who's? Everybody's muted. Okay, that's done. Sorry about that. Sorry for that interruption. Um,
Bruce,
what-
before you continue, this is not currently available. This is what's coming, right?
That's correct.
Yeah,
In
thanks.
iOS 26. Yes, sir. Thank you for chiming in here. I kept rattling on, going on with the stuff. Anyway, in the new iOS 26 and operating system and OS X 26 or whatever, the new 26 thing, they are to streamline that share sheet, which is that up arrow with a little box with an up arrow there, where you find print or share with this or share with that. You can not. What's going to happen is based on your current of what you usually use. those options will appear in that order. In other words, if you use print hopefully is going to be on top and the others will be down the bottom. They're not taking out all the other stuff. All you have to do is hit more, I believe, according to this, and all the other stuff's going to show, just in case you want to use that. But according to them, it's going to be a familiar layout with a lot less clutter. So look to something that's going to be a lot easier to use. That's the first one. And as soon as I'm able to, the next one is from Macworld. It's also the Mac OS. Now this is Mac OS 26. Tahoe fixes a major pet peeve of Google Chrome users. I don't know who out there is a Google Chrome user. I'm one of them. I've experienced this only once because most of the time I use Safari. So what happens is when you're in some website that wants you to log on and they are going to send you a code. That code, while you were in Chrome, you had to copy and paste into that field where it would be accepted. Well, in iOS, I'm sorry, take that back. In macOS 26, that will automatically fill into the field needed, just like it does in Safari. So all the people I know that use Chrome are jumping up and down saying, yay, you, finally, we are going to be able to have the same function that people with Safari had for a while. But anyway, that's a big deal because before you had to copy and paste it and you had to wait for it and it was going to take up a whole bunch of time. But anyway, that's been resolved and it works the same on Safari. In Google Chrome as it does in Safari. So that's what this is about. And again, the links are there. You can look at it later on, but this is just a little short synopsis of what I could dig up. And coming up next, if anybody in here has any questions, anybody out there using Google Chrome? Well, if not, that's fine. I tell you the truth, I was told by a website once, and I don't remember which one or which website that was. I think uh, California DMV, something like that. That the only way I could do anything on regarding my DMV account was to use Google Chrome. And so I started with Google Chrome at that point and experienced something like that. But from now on, this is going to be a moot point because it's going to have worked the same way it does on Safari. So here we go with the next one. This is from another one from Macworld. And this is another one. And I don't know who out there is using Terminal, but the Terminal that was created since year one, I believe, like Stone Age, the beginning of Mac and stuff before even, well, but anyway, it was just a normal box with very little limited colors and everything else. Well, now it's being redone, and what the reason the terminal is in there, this is to manipulate your system. For example, your everybody out there with a Mac, the first thing I do on mine is in the background of the operating system is being run by Unix. Unix has this backdoor. It's called the root user. The username is root and the password is root. So here's what happens. You can log in there it is not meant for people who really don't know or are afraid. But if you can, you can log in there, and if you didn't alter that password, alter it to something that you know. In other words, I know Macs are secured and you need a password, and they can, if they break your password, they can get in and all kinds of stuff. This is another set of security where nobody's able to, for example, if you leave your computer open and some whiz bang kid comes in and changes that password and changes everything on you, that kind of stuff. Anyway, that's one of the reasons why I'm talking about the terminal, is that the terminal now is going to have a full set of color. It's going to be a lot easier to use. It's a techie kind of thing, but I decided to bring that in there just to explain in a short order here how that thing works. Anybody before or any previous experience with the terminal? Nothing really that if you don't run, applications in terminal or change settings or delete libraries or stuff like that, you don't have to use that. You really should stay out of it. But it is a piece of software that's been there forever, and I just wanted to talk to you about it.
Okay, well, I just Googled it and it says the root password on the Mac by default has no password and is not enabled. You have to go in and enable it. So you don't have to worry about it. It's not enabled by default. So it doesn't have a password because it's not functional until you enable it. So don't worry about that.
Okay, I stand corrected. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you kind of shocked me. I had to go Google it. I was
Well, I guess I had experiences with other systems you were able to. Matter of fact, it was a Sun system that had a root password. But anyway, I thought all Unix-based operating systems that didn't, I mean, were open. The passwords and user ID were open, but obviously Mac is not. So I stand corrected there. Next one is from 9 to 5 Mac, and in again, there's iOS 26, and I believe OS 26, OS X 26. The password app is going to have history. Sometimes when you change a password and using the Apple password application with Apple password system, if you say, okay, I want to use this password, it says, okay, I give you a very strong password. Do you want to use this password? You say, yeah, I want to use this password. And something happens to the website where you have to log in and they don't know your password. They want the only way they know is your old password. Or in the meantime, you have updated your current password on your current password manager with the new password. Therefore, the old password has been overwritten. Well, in operating in OS system 26, iOS 26 and OS X 26, there will be a history. If that you run into a scenario like that, and you can go right back into the history and see what the previous password for that website was and use it. It'll always default to the current, but you can go back and check the history. And if need be, you can take that password and provide it back to whatever website or who's ever asking you for it, resolving now I forgot the password, so you got to click the forgot password and do this and do that and authenticate and start a new password all over again. So good thing, very good thing and handy as far as having someplace to go back and take a look if you can get yourself out of this trouble. Anyway, I don't know if anybody else out there had problems with passwords like that, but I did. And I did have to go to, I forgot password. I have to tell them to go ahead and send me an email, and I would start from the email and reset the password all over again. So good thing we get history with the passwords now. Anybody out there have anything to say about this? It's as far as I'm concerned, it's a good.
Right, but we don't have that yet, right? It's
Well,
coming, but
this is coming with the operating system 26 when it comes out in, I believe, when Rick, September or something.
Yes, very likely September, maybe October.
Yeah. So it's going to be an update to your current system, which is going to be called at that point 26, and that opportunity, I mean that option is going to be included.
Well, you know, the password manager right now, the Apple password manager, keeps the old password in there anyway. It doesn't override it. If you put if you change the password, the old one's going to be in there. And unfortunately, it gets confusing because unless you purposely go out and erase it, it stays there. So you end up with maybe one or two old passwords in there anyway. So I'm not sure how the new system is going to keep track of which is the oldest or the whatever. I don't know what they're going to do on that.
Yeah, it's a problem if you change your password and then you go to log in using the current password application, it's going to use the old one, and then you have to go in into passwords and delete the old one and make sure you modify the new one.
Right.
So I don't use it a lot. I use my password manager instead.
Well, okay. Okay, well, thank you very much. And let's see. Here we go with this is from The Verge. It has nothing to do with Apple, but just for those of you who use WhatsApp, this is Facebook or Meta that owns WhatsApp. They planned on starting to while you use WhatsApp, starting to provide you or present you with ads, and a whole bunch of people objected, including the CEO, saying that it's one thing to say, yeah, we're going to show apps. It's another thing to show apps in encrypted system. In other words, point-to-point encrypted system. What would happen it would weaken the security. In some way, shape, or form, they would have to inject or decrypt or break the encryption to show you ads, and they decided not to. So if anybody out there using WhatsApp, me being one of them, don't worry. As of right now, they're not going to inject advertisement to your messaging other people. That's that at first it was going to happen, and a whole bunch of people objected to it, and they just backed off. So there won't be anything done. There is there is a thing. I have another thing that's not on here, and it has to do with Apple being sued by its own shareholders for not having Siri ready on time. Just to get down to what they're suing about is money. According to the article I read, they have lost something close to $3 billion or some numbers like that in stock regarding Siri not being completed on time. So just a note saying Apple is getting getting it from all sides at the same time. So that's the only thing I have to say about the news. And now we'll go on and have the few videos that I've picked out of all over the place. So this one is this is from Tacky Tutor, how to stop opening all kinds of apps on an iPhone. And she says that widgets are the answer to opening all kinds of apps. And so let's see how she uses widgets regarding opening apps. So there we go.
Do you ever wish you could multitask on your iPhone or your iPad without having to open up 1,000 apps? I know I'm exaggerating, but there is a way to multitask easily without having to jump around on your device to get the information you need quickly. Today I'm going to talk to you about widgets and how they can easily help you get the most out of your technology with the least amount of effort. So stick with me and I'll be sure to give you a bonus tip at the end, which will be sure to help you. Thank you to my supporters and my members. You're really helping to make my channel grow. If you don't know about membership, you can look below and click on the link for join. But let's get started. Widgets are a tool that Apple makes available. They're not a separate app. But what they allow you to do is present the apps on your phone or the tools on your phone in a way that's very quick to use. I'm going to go over how to use the widgets and different ways to organize your widgets so that you can get the most out of your phone. So let's start here. What is a widget? First of all, you see on my phone that is 65 degrees in New York. That is a widget. It's called the weather widget. And I've created the widget by choosing which apps I want to view, which pages in those apps I want to view, and then I've created what we call a stack. Now this is one way to organize your widgets. I have the weather, what I have to do today, and the date, and anything else I have to do. And I can easily slide between them with an easy swipe of your finger. It's not a hold. It's just a quick gesture to swipe between the apps. Now, another way to organize your widgets is by app. So here I have, you'll see I have Davis, 65 degrees. And if I scroll through, I can see the temperature or I can see the weather in different cities that I've chosen. Next to that, I have the clock, which tells me the time. However, I've chosen to show the time in different time zones. Easy to find just by scrolling through. I have San Francisco, London, and New York. Below that, I have my reminders showing me what I have to do today, showing me bills I have to pay today, and also showing me my shopping list. And I can easily scroll through the different reminders lists that I have set up for my widget. And the media widget. And I put them all together in a stack like this. So I have the music, the podcast, and the book. Let's go ahead and I'll show you how to create a stack. To create a stack, hold down on your screen until you see wiggling. Press the edit button on the top left. Tap on add widget. And here's where you can choose what widgets you want. So if you want the calendar, it's right up there. Press calendar. It's going to give you options. I'm going to choose the first one because I want to see the date nice and big. Now I would like to add clocks that show me the time in various cities. So I press edit, press add widget. I can type in clock because I know what I want. I'm going to go to the city digital like that. I could also do city one. I like that one better. I'm going to press add widget. Go back to edit, add widget, search clock again, go back to city one, add widget. Now I have two of them. I'm going to do one more. Edit, add widget, clock. You'll see why in a minute. Right there. press Add Widget. You see I have 3 clocks. Now we're going to get out of editing for a minute. I'll go to the first one, and here's where you can decide what city you want. I'll press Edit Widget. I can choose any city. I'll choose Tokyo. Tokyo. And now I have that city is set to Tokyo. Now I'll choose the other one, Edit Widget, Washington, D.C. And I have Washington. And now I'll do another one, Edit Widget, London. It takes up a lot of space on your home screen to do it like this, and that's where stacks come into play. To make a stack, you're going to hold down on a widget, press Edit Home Screen, and then you can drag one widget right on top of another. Do it again, and we have 3 widgets now. I want to slide down like that, and I can see the time in 3 different cities. Now, is 3 a limit? No. If you have 5 cities you want easily accessible, put one of those in. But you can see it's very easy to quickly see the time in various cities and not take up a lot of space on your home screen. There is another app that I want to add, just like I have the time in 3 different cities. Now I want to add a series of widgets that will show me the weather in the same 3 cities. Let's see how we do that. Hold down the screen, press Edit, Add Widget, type in weather. There we go. I'm going to add that widget, and I'm going to do it 2 more times. So go to Edit, Add Widget, Weather, Add Widget. Now 1 more time, Add Widget, Weather, Add Widget. Okay, so now I have 3 different weather widgets all on my page. Now I want to specify what city I want to know the temperature. So I'm going to hold it down, and now I press Edit Widget, change that to Tokyo, change this one to London, and I'll change this one to Washington. Washington, and there we go. So now I have the weather showing in 3 different cities, and there are 3 separate widgets. And you can see it takes up a lot of space on my home screen, so I'm going to make a stack. What I'll do is I'll hold on one of them, and I'll hold it over another one until they are all stacked there, and then London and Tokyo. London, Tokyo, Washington. So this is my media widget. This is my weather widget. And this is my clock widget. This is my reminders widget with different lists. Or you can have it be more productivity. You can stack your widgets in a way that makes more sense to you in terms of your own productivity. So I would call this my today tool, where everything I need in the morning, I have right in one stack. So I have the temperature, I have the time zones, I have the date, and I have my list all together. So bonus tip. As I said before, when you're doing your stacks for your widgets, you want to make sure that you turn this widget suggestions off so you don't get bombarded with Siri suggestions that may or may not be helpful for you. If you've created your stack, I assume you know what you want in it. Go ahead and explore the different widgets that you can add. Let me know how it's going with you. If you found my video helpful, please click the like button, subscribe so you'll know when new videos are out, and if you have a comment or suggestion, please leave it below.
So,
What's the
Boy.
name of this person?
The
this
techie
is
tutor.
Techie Tutor, right?
Pleasant lady,
I'm sorry, what'd you say, Ken?
pleasant lady.
Yes, very pleasant.
Oh, boy, I I'm gonna do that. I was trying to have a figure out how she did the names on the clock, but then I did see it and it was abbreviated, I guess. DC
Yes,
was abbreviated.
underneath noon or midnight or whatever that was.
Yeah, because I do that kind of stuff. I need New York, I need Chicago, and I need another country.
Yeah,
And so, okay.
be real helpful when you travel. So you're not
Well,
sending text messages that
yeah. Uh,
the
um,
interesting part for boot camp this last Saturday, which I had to bail on because I got that shot. I was going to do widgets, but I was doing a whole different part of that. And she took it a little bit deeper and probably a little bit easier for people to handle. Um, I still have the widget for weather, and you tap weather, and there's like 5 different cities you can scroll between back and forth. It'd be a lot easier the way she did it.
yeah, I was wondering about because if you do, then you get, do you do you also get like the 7 day thing or just
I
at
don't
that?
think I don't think the way she did it, unless you open it, but I know if you open up the weather widget and you've added cities to it, you get the 7 day forecast, the 24-hour forecast,
Hmm,
air
okay.
quality,
Yeah.
wind map. What else do you get? UV index. You get a full description. I don't know how much that people really need is the thing.
All
I mean,
right.
if I'm going to Phoenix, I don't care what the air quality index is.
Yeah.
It's 102. I'm not going outside. I don't really
Yeah.
care.
I have friends in Chicago and they have been going through some real muggy the weather over there. I mean, it is it is hot and it's just so humid. It's horrible to breathe. But anyway, um, that was my thing. And I'm also have to when I have to stack reminders. I have a bunch of reminders to do, many doctor's appointments, but anyway. Anybody else has comments?
I was,
Question?
if I don't know how you found the techie tutor, but good job.
I thought
I
I thought it was very useful.
Yeah,
thank you, but it wasn't me. It was somebody who was holding the session the week before that had Techie Tutor on it, and I just went looking for it after that. I think it was Peter or Lee. Somebody had
I,
Techie
I,
Tutor
I
on.
did share a techie tutor
There you go.
thing,
okay,
but
Thank
Peter.
you.
it,
Kudos to you
it
then.
was a couple of months ago, I think. Or
Oh, really? Okay.
Okay, Bruce, I take it back.
Yeah,
Kudos, Peter.
that's all right. Hey,
You actually knew, you saw it and you said, let's do that again. So good to you, Bruce.
wait.
Anyway,
Well, no, when I went in there, I listened to it and I said, "Why I need to do that," But
right,
but
and the content that she provides changes all the time. So what
yeah.
I shared was something different, definitely.
but I need to follow that because that's a lot easier than you start this app and start that app and see this and that the other. Okay, well, the next one we have is how to use TextEdit. Now, I don't know if anybody out there is into using TextEdit or not, but it's been there for the longest period of time, and it's in many cases it does a better job than, believe it or not, Pages or Word. For example, yesterday I was in, I don't know why this is happening. But anyway, I write code. So I'm writing code and I need to print it out. Because I'm having a couple of errors that I need to think about. There it works, but it gives me errors. Then I print it out and the background is black on and it and the font is off black. You can barely see it, and it's using up a whole bunch of ink and everything. I'm saying now, what is it? There is, and this is the piece of software I'm working with that lets me write code. Anyway, so I just copied it and put it into TextEdit, and believe it or not, it came out black and white just fine. So let's see what he's got to tell us about that.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Let me show you the basics of using TextEdit on your Mac. So TextEdit is an app built into macOS. TextEdit can work with two different kinds of files: plain text files, also known as text or TXT files, and rich text formatted files, also known as RTF files. You can launch it like any other app. I'm going to use Launchpad here, but you can use Spotlight if you prefer. When you create a new document in TextEdit, you can check to see which kind of file you have by simply looking at the top. If you see nothing up here, it's a plain text file. However, if you see a bar up here with all sorts of text styling and formatting buttons, it's a rich text file. As you see, you can change which kind of file you're working with by going to Format and then either make plain text to switch to plain text or make rich text to go the other way. Also, in TextEdit settings, under New Document, you can change which kind of document you want created when you start a new one. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. In plain text mode, all you can do is type characters like this. It's just plain text. As a result, you get very tiny files. If I examine it here in the Finder and get info, you can see it's 44 bytes long. The text I've typed is exactly 44 characters. There is no overhead. This makes it great for things like having tiny little bits of text inside of folders to explain what's in the folder. For instance, here in this folder, I've got one with the same name, or you may want to call it something like README, and it just has information about this project in there. You could also use it for writing when you just want to focus on the text and not be distracted by formatting and styling. Now, if you switch to rich text mode, then you do have all these style and formatting controls up here, and it looks pretty much like word processors from the 80s or 90s. You've got all the basics. You can select text and bold it, or use these buttons up here to italicize or underline. You can center text. You can change the font of text that's selected and the size as well. You can change the line spacing. You've even got options for bullet lists and things like that. And when you save this, instead of .txt, it's got the .rtf extension. And if you look at this file, it's still pretty small. This is only 536 bytes, which certainly is more than the number of characters here because it contains the styling information, but still a lot smaller than a Microsoft Word or Apple Pages document. Working with rich text documents in TextEdit is still a great way to write, especially if you need to do a few bits of styling like bolding some words and such. When working in TextEdit, you can use all the basic text tools. You can, of course, type and use the arrow keys to move back and forth. You can use your pointing device and select text. If you look under Edit, you'll see spelling and grammar. Under Find here, you can find and search for text, but you could also check Replace here and do Find and Replace throughout the document. If you're in rich text mode, not only can you style text, but you can also add a link here. And if your Mac is compatible with Apple Intelligence, you have it turned on, you can also use the writing tools here to proofread or rewrite your text. Now, one of the best things about TextEdit is both the TXT format and the RTF format are universal open formats. You could be sure that when you send somebody a TXT file or RTF file that they can view it. But you can also export as a PDF document from TextEdit. You can also export for Microsoft Word and a few other formats. You go to File and then hold the Option key down, duplicate changes to Save As. Select that, and under File Format, you can select various different formats, including Microsoft Word. Now, there's also a third kind of file that TextEdit can handle. Notice I never mentioned inserting images or graphics. You can do that if you're in rich text mode, but once you do, it's going to ask to convert to RTF-D. This is a special format that's really only handled by Apple devices. And let's finish with a few quick settings that are useful. If you go to Format, you'll find Wrap to Page. Turn that on, and you can see it displays everything inside of a page. You can set the page margins in Page Setup here. And this also is true for rich text documents as well. Also, of course, plain text has no styling or format information, but you can change how it looks as you're working on it. You can go to TextEdit settings here, and under New Document, you can set the plain text font. This is only for you when viewing text files in TextEdit. If you send this to somebody else, they would view them at whatever size they have set as their plain text font. So there's a quick overview of TextEdit. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
Okay. I'm sorry, that was a lot faster than I thought. Jeez, he was moving at light speed. But anyway, anybody ever used TextEdit?
Every day.
I
Every
use it. I use it every day.
every day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey,
I've been composing stuff in Word, copy pasted in the mail, and it always messes up the line spacing. So I'll try TextEdit.
If
Mhm.
you're ever trying to copy and paste from Word onto the web, like in
yeah,
MailChimp or the DVMUG WordPress blog, you never want to do that from Word, Microsoft Word. It's a mess.
Yes.
You do TextEdit, you want plain text. All you want is the characters of your fingers typing. You don't want anything else because the formatting is all done on the web. You save yourself a lot of grief.
Hmm.
and I found another use for it. And it's like when I search on the web and I find some instructions. For example, I use Google anyway. So it comes up and gives you the instructions before you get into other people telling you how to do it. Well, you can copy and paste that stuff. But if you paste it into anything else but TextEdit, that is a web page. And what you're going to see is weird stuff. I mean, some of it is going to be background, a whole bunch of new lines, paragraphs in different colors and everything. But if you paste it into TextEdit, plain text, it just all you see is plain text. So instead of retyping all that stuff, you do this and send it to somebody else. Let Google do the work. That's my my little anecdote here. Okay.
Some of these programs would let you have an option of paste as plain text.
Yes, the BBS has that. When I paste stuff into the BBS, I get it off the web and it's all formatted like crazy. Doesn't matter. You just come over and say paste as plain text. It's just keep the
Right.
typing. It doesn't size, color, fonts, all that stuff is just not necessary because you want to redo it. Most programs that have formatting of their own want to do it in their program, not bring in the formatting from the other one because they don't match and it's messed up. And
Yeah, but it's handy. I find it more handier every time I try to write something down and it opens instantly instead of opening up something that takes a while and you got to name it something, put it someplace. This is just a little more handier. Anyway, it's a very handy application, tell you the truth. Next one is, and again, this is for not for everybody to go looking through, but how to get to part of your operating system, of our operating system, Mac OS X operating system. There is a library folder. That library folder holds all kinds of information, including your preferences. Preference file is the most important thing out there. Anyway, you can go and alter all that stuff, and you can go take p-lists out, and p-list meaning a certain procedures that take place. But anyway, here he's going to show us how to get to your library folder when you need to.
Hi, this is Gary with MacMost.com. Here are different ways to access the library folder on your Mac. Now, a common question Mac users have is how to access their library folder. First, consider that there are at least 2 library folders. If in the Finder you go to the top level of your Mac, the computer level, and then you go down onto your main internal hard drive, you'll notice you've got Applications, System, the Users folder, and a Library folder. This is your system-wide library folder, and usually not the one people want to get to when they want to go into their library folder. The one they really want is in their Users folder in their Home folder. You can have multiple user accounts, and each one would have its own home folder with its own library folder. Most Mac users would just have one home folder, and in that there would be a library folder. But notice here that there isn't one. There's no library folder shown here inside my home folder. That's because it's hidden. That makes it a lot harder to get into. But there are several different methods. If you look online, you may come across all these different methods as the method to get into the library folder. But each one works just as well. Let's start with one that just uses the Go menu here, as long as you're in the Finder, and then go to Folder. Sometimes the instructions will just say use Shift-Command-G, which gets you to the same place. It brings up this special window here that allows you to type a path, and then the Finder will go to that. And it doesn't matter if that path is hidden, it will still go to it, so it works to get to the library folder. A shortcut to get to your home folder is to use the tilde character, which on US keyboards is the backtick key just above the tab key and below escape. You need to use Shift to type tilde, and then slash, and then type library.
It's in you.
And then you could just press return and it will go there. You could also just type slash and then users and then your user folder name and then library. It'll get you to the same place. And now it takes you down into the library folder. And sure enough, if you command click here, you could see you are in your home folder in library. But if you go back up here, you'll see that the library folder is once again hidden from you. Another way to get here is that when you're viewing the home folder, and you must be viewing the home folder, so you see it up here with the little home icon and the name of your home folder, you can go to View and then Show View Options or Command J. And then one of the options listed here will be Show Library Folder. If you don't see this, it means you're not in your home folder. You're in another location. The checkbox only appears if you're in your home folder. So if you check that, now the library folder is visible along with the other folders and will remain so every time you come back to the home folder. But my favorite way to access the home folder works wherever you are. So you could be, say, in your Documents folder or somewhere else. If you use the Go menu, you have all of these locations like Documents, Desktop, Download, Home, and so on. It would be great if the library folder was here, and it is here, but it's hidden. It can be revealed just by holding down the Option key. And notice how it appears there now. If you now select it, you go to your library folder. You don't have to be in your home folder to start with, and it's much easier than typing out the path. There are, of course, other ways to get there, like some people may even tell you to use the terminal with the Open command, but I think Go with the Option key held down is the quickest way. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. So now that you're here in your library folder, why would you want to be here? For most Mac users, you never need to go to the library folder at all. It's fairly typical to use your Mac for years and years and never need to go here. But some people like to go in here to remove files they no longer need. For instance, you have a folder here called Application Support. And if you open that up and look inside it, you're going to see the names of apps you have installed or maybe previously had installed but no longer do. Sometimes they'll just be the app names. Sometimes they'll be the company names. Sometimes they use the format com.companyname.appname or some abbreviation thereof. And if you scroll down, you can see all these different apps. Now, not all apps put things in the Application Support folder. And some that do only use a tiny bit of space, but others will use a lot of space. I'm in List View here, which you can get to easily by choosing View as List, and that allows me to sort by size. So sorting by size and looking under Application Support, I can see which folders take up the most space. If I look at the name of the folder, I hopefully can identify the app that that folder is supporting. So these first two are apps I have installed, and I can see they're using a lot of space. And based on what the app does, I kind of know why. So it's fine. But then if I look further down the list, I may see an app I uninstalled previously, like this one. And it left behind a fairly large amount of data here in the library folder. Since I'm very confident that I uninstalled this app and that the files in here are not being used by any other app, I can simply drag this to the trash to get rid of that folder. But it's not always clear cut. Sometimes you may not recognize the name because it's the company name or maybe the older name of the app, or maybe it's a name that signifies that the files in there are shared by several different related apps. For instance, music producers and graphic artists may commonly have folders filled with things that support different apps, and the name might not be readily recognizable. In that case, you want to be very careful. Deleting something in here could make an app that you're using inoperable and require you to reinstall it again. There are other folders as well that may have similar things from other apps. For instance, since I'm sorted by size here, I can see my caches folder is the largest, and that's fairly typical. Having files stored in your caches speeds up the operation of those apps. If I open this up, for instance, I can see a large cache used by my screen recording software, which makes sense. And I can see some other apps, even browsers, that have large amounts of data in them. So in general, you don't want to delete caches unless you know that you don't have the app anymore and you won't be needing this cache. Or perhaps support from that app has told you that deleting the cache will help with some problem. Containers is another place that you can look for the names of apps and see how large the container is. Whichever folder you're looking in, you do want to pay attention to the size here. And keep in mind that once you get below a certain size, it's probably not worth your time and effort to figure out what's going on. For instance, these are fairly big folders. But as soon as I get down to these here, these are very small folders. And trying to figure out what that folder is for and should you get rid of it really doesn't have that great of a return. Matter of fact, if you scroll down here, you're going to find very tiny little folders just saving little bits of preferences. Even if you uninstall the app, the idea is if you reinstall it later, it remembers things either about your user account or your preferences or settings inside that app. But certainly it's not worth your time trying to figure out what this is just to save 160K, or certainly not worth your time trying to figure out what this is to save 21 bytes. As a general rule, you shouldn't delete anything in the library folder unless you really know what it is and that deleting it will be okay. Otherwise, look on the website for that app or contact support for that app to ask about that folder. And if you're not sure which app it is, you can always just use the name of that folder there and do a search online to see if maybe others are talking about it, or the search instantly reminds you of which app that name applies to. But don't just go through your library folder and delete stuff. That's a surefire way to break apps that you may need to use, or maybe even cause problems with your entire Mac system. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching.
So pay attention to the last couple of sentences that he stated. You don't have to go there at all. And the only reason you would have to go in there is to debug a problem, to try to resolve a problem. If there is a problem be a problem in your computer. All it does, it uses up space. All that stuff just using up space. It shouldn't be causing you any problems. Just because you feel like cleaning stuff up, I don't know if that's worth it. Anyway, Jan, you got a question? Go ahead.
Yeah, well, one's a comment. Back when we used to delete apps preferences a lot to solve problems, I made my library very accessible by putting a link in the sidebar in the browser. So it was really
I got out there, honey.
not in the browser, in the Finder. It was really easy.
He was next door, and I took the mail that we had, but there was nothing there.
He's just talking to pay no
I
attention
know,
to.
I know. I've had a lot of it.
Let's see.
I had a question related to preferences. Is it still a way to solve problems nowadays to drag out preferences? I never hear that anymore as a way, if an app is acting funky, try deleting the preference.
if you're having such problems that it could be causing, that it could be indicating of preferences, but preferences are mainly your preferences or the way you want the app to work. And if you by some chance drag that out and a brand new one, that preference doesn't exist anymore, you're going to have to reset it all over again.
Yeah, I know, but does it still solve weird problems?
It's-
I don't know what else
Absolutely.
to
It's
do
just,
about it.
it's never the change. That preferences can cause a problem. If you have a wonky problem with an app, the better way to do it is use something like App Cleaner that's free. You drag the program on there and it's supposed to go find all the parts of them, which may not even be in your library. It may be in the system library. Some
But it,
programs like Adobe programs scatter stuff all over the place. And you wouldn't find them in the library. They have different names. There's Adobe has related files that work with different programs. And so, yeah, you're better off using an app cleaner to remove the program if you're trying to fix it and then
well,
reinstall it.
Or with
oh, I
Adobe,
I wasn't saying to delete it and reinstall it. I was just saying to
with
get rid of the preferences.
with Adobe, there are uninstallers that really
Yes.
cleans it out too.
Yeah, with Adobe and Microsoft, if there's an Adobe in your utilities folder, there'll be a bunch of Adobe stuff, and some of them will be uninstallers. And it goes through and supposedly cleans everything out. That it keeps a log of what it installed and it uninstalls it. But you could remove all that, and you'll still find Adobe stuff on your computer.
The, un
but
the uninstalls don't always keep up with updates to your application.
Yeah.
Leave stuff to older versions.
yeah.
Adobe's the worst.
But Jan, if
Yeah,
you think, I'm sorry.
I recently transferred data from an old MacBook Pro from my niece, who's a professional graphic artist, to a new MacBook Pro, and she's a subscriber to Adobe. And there must have been 5 different versions of Photoshop and Illustrator on there.
Yeah.
And you had to use the uninstaller for each one.
And if you get a new computer and you have older versions, you try to launch the uninstaller and say, sorry, this is too old. It won't run to uninstall the unsupported app. So then you got to go in and try to use App Cleaner or go.
Yeah.
It's just sitting there taking up space. It ain't hurting nothing.
Yeah, but Jan, if you think that the preference file is what's causing a problem, that preference file, if you delete that, you don't delete it. Don't ever delete anything. Just drag it out onto the desktop and leave it there.
Right.
All you're gonna have to do is just reset it all over again. That's all there is to it. And if you do drag it out and it resolves the problem, well, you just did yourself a favor. Yeah. Anything else to add, John? It just takes up space. In other words, if, like John said, if you're not sure, or somebody, if you're not sure what it is, don't take it out. Or don't, well, you can take it out. Just don't delete it, because you can always put it back in there. Once you get rid of it, you get rid of it, then it's not there. You cause all kinds of problems. Anyway, that's for people like you, Jan, who go in there and start working with their system. Anyway, anybody else have anything to say about that? We have all kinds of time. So the next one is, and when I manage to switch it here, this is a shorty from Apple. And I have never knew this was possible, to tell you the truth, how to set up your Mac using an iPhone or an iPad. And according to them, saying that if you're not able to do it through using a Mac, you can do it using an iPad or an iPhone. So here we go.
Mac setup just got easier. You can use your iPhone or iPad to automatically sign in with your Apple account and even transfer over some of your preferred features. Here's how. Before you start, your iPhone or iPad should be up to date and have Bluetooth enabled. Also, Make sure your Mac and iPhone or iPad are near each other during the setup process. After you turn on your Mac, follow the prompts until you're prompted to transfer your data to this Mac. Select Setup with iPhone or iPad and click Continue.
That's what they meant.
We're going to use our iPhone to set up this Mac. Bring it near your Mac. Tap Continue when the Setup New Mac card appears on your iPhone, and then authenticate using Face ID, Touch ID, or your passcode. When an animation appears on your Mac, hold your iPhone up and position the rear camera so that the animation is in the circle. Once the scan is complete, you can set your iPhone aside. On your Mac, follow the prompts, which include setting up any additional accessibility options that weren't transferred from your iPhone, and creating your Mac user account and password. You'll also be asked to review and accept the terms and conditions in order to continue. If you have read them and agree, click the checkbox and click Agree to confirm. Then follow any remaining prompts. And that's it. Your Mac will be set up with your Apple account and many of your preferred features. Now you're ready to enjoy your new Mac. Thanks, iPhone.
Interesting.
Why would you want to do that?
Yeah, exactly. It's not, it doesn't, it wouldn't time machine, it wouldn't bring your documents in your dock. And unless you have, if you had documents in desktop, whatever you had in iCloud turned on, documents in desktop to do it, and they're in the cloud, yes, it would turn all that on, but it's not going to move your third-party apps, you know, it's not time machining.
It's one way of doing it, but it's nowhere near complete. Anyway, do we have anybody else? I've never used that before, so I mean, time machine is it for me. So. I have another video. I don't know if you want to watch it or not. It's like 8 minutes and 43 seconds.
What's it on?
It's
Look to the next screen.
use your phone as a webcam.
Oh yeah, that's important.
Cool. Okay. So they're saying to get better quality video and use your phone. Tape it to your back of your laptop and use your camera. So here we go.
Hi, this is Gary with MacPost.com. Let me show you how you can use your iPhone as a webcam for your Mac. Now, if you have a MacBook or an iMac, you have a built-in webcam, and you also may have a display that has a webcam with your Mac Mini or Mac Studio. But did you know you could also use your iPhone as a webcam? This has a few different advantages. First, the cameras on an iPhone are much higher quality than a standard webcam, which has to be really tiny to fit into a display. Look at how thin your MacBook's display, the top is, and compare that to the thickness of an iPhone. That's why the cameras here are so much better. You can use these cameras as a regular webcam, usually without too much additional work. As long as your iPhone is logged into the same Apple ID as your Mac, they are near each other, and all the standard stuff like Bluetooth is enabled, you should see it as an option. Another advantage to using your iPhone as a webcam is it's independent of your screen. Your regular webcam is pointing directly at you. You've got to sit right in front of the screen, right in front of your MacBook or your iMac in order to be right in the middle of the camera. But with an iPhone, since it's independent, you can point it off at a different angle. So if you happen to walk around the room a lot, or you want to, use a whiteboard or something like that while you're in a meeting, you have the ability to do that much more easily with an independent camera, like using the iPhone. Various third-party companies sell things that will allow you to mount using the MagSafe magnet in here to the top of a display, but you can also get tripods, little desktop tripods and things that allow you to easily click your iPhone to it, and then you can point it off in a slightly different direction depending upon the situation. You can even sit in a comfortable place in your home or office with your iPhone pointed at you and have your MacBook off to the side while you talk or record yourself. But note that there are some system requirements. You've got to have iOS 16 or later and macOS Ventura or later. So in other words, something has been updated in the last 2 years. You also have to add a somewhat recent iPhone, 2018 or later, and also a somewhat recent Mac, but even some of the later Intel Macs should work just fine. There are a lot of other requirements as well. You can check out this page at Apple's site to make sure that you've got everything set up right. But as long as you do, you should be able to select your iPhone as a camera. If you find these videos valuable, consider joining the more than 2,000 others that support MacMost at Patreon. You get exclusive content, course discounts, and more. You can read about it at macmost.com/Patreon. Now, to use this, it's fairly straightforward, but start with FaceTime. So in the FaceTime app, there's a video menu here. If I click it, I should see my camera here as long as everything is set up correctly. So I can just select this instead, and now it's going to start using my iPhone's camera, and you can see it changes there. I've got everything available here that I had before. This really depends on the model of Mac you've got and if you're using macOS Sequoia or not. You have all of these settings here for things like center stage, portrait mode, studio light, reactions, and whether or not you're using a background or just showing the entire scene like that. So you have all those controls if you're macOS Sequoia with recent models of everything. Otherwise, you just use the camera and there's no special controls for it at all. And you can see I can move the camera around pretty easily to be off at different angles and things. If you want to record yourself, a great app for doing that on your Mac is QuickTime Player. Just run QuickTime Player and go to File, New Movie Recording. And then here you can also select from here your iPhone camera as well as any other cameras. Notice in both FaceTime and in QuickTime Pro, you can also choose your iPhone's microphone or to continue using the microphones you have attached to your Mac. Photo Booth is another app where you can go to a menu, in this case the camera menu, and switch to your iPhone camera and then use this with Photo Booth for taking pictures or recording. Sadly, however, you can't use iMovie with this. iMovie only works with the FaceTime camera, say in a MacBook or iMac. It won't work with other cameras and it doesn't support this feature. So if you really want to record yourself and use it in iMovie, use QuickTime Player to do that. Save the file and then drag and drop it into iMovie. Now for some people, the most important app for using this would be Safari or another web browser. You see, web browsers are often the place that people go to video conference. Sometimes we use independent apps for it, but sometimes it's just a video conference that takes place in a web app on a web page. And you can use continuity camera with Safari and other browsers as well. So I'm going to use this test site here and I'm going to select the iPhone camera here like that. And now you see how I can use it and also the microphone here for web apps like meeting apps. Keynote is another place where you may use a camera using the special live video feature. So when you add live video, you can go to Format Live Video here. You can go to the cameras and select a new camera and you can choose your iPhone's camera as the source for live video. Another place you can use this is if you just want a microphone. If you go into System Settings, you can go down to Sound and then click on Input. And you should see your iPhone's microphone there. So you could set the microphone to this and then use it in all sorts of apps that record audio. Note that while you usually would use continuity camera with your iPhone just wirelessly, you can connect your camera with a cable. This sometimes is useful for troubleshooting. Sometimes it just doesn't work wirelessly and then you plug in and it works. In those cases, if you unplug, then usually it keeps working. But also, keeping it plugged in may give you better quality, especially if there's a lot of radio interference nearby. And plugging in also will keep your iPhone's battery charged. So if you're going to do an hour-long online meeting, you don't have to worry about running down your iPhone's battery. Now note that when you're doing this, this is what it looks like on your iPhone. It will switch to a screen that looks like this. You can disconnect with that big red button there. There's also a way to pause. You can simply pause and you get a freeze frame right there. It's no longer sending a signal, but it's easy to just resume there, and then the camera resumes. You don't have to do anything on your Mac to pause or resume. You do that on the iPhone. If this isn't working, there are a lot of different things that you could check. First, on your iPhone, go into settings and check to make sure, of course, you have Wi-Fi turned on and Bluetooth. Also, go into General, and in General, there's a section for airplane continuity. There's actually a continuity camera switch. So you may have accidentally switched that off in the past. Make sure that's turned on. And if it's not working, it may not hurt to toggle it off and then back on again to see if that helps. If you're still having trouble, you may also want to toggle on and off Bluetooth on your Mac. And you may want to try restarting both devices to see if then it comes up. Also, I notice that if you are logged into more than one user account on your Mac, sometimes they'll get in each other's way. So maybe log out of other user accounts and only be logged into the one you're using. Also, look at other software that might be running on your Mac that could be using the camera. Special screen recording software maybe you've installed, or special meeting software that uses the camera. Those could be getting in the way as well. And as I said before, sometimes if it's not working, connecting your iPhone with the cable to your Mac sometimes will get it to work. And then often, once it's working, you don't have to keep it plugged in. That same page I showed you before has some troubleshooting tips from Apple as well. If you've checked to make sure that your iPhone and Mac meet the requirements, you've tried my suggestions and you've tried Apple suggestions and it's still not working, then your next step, if you really need this, is to contact Apple support. Hope you found this useful. Thanks for watching. If you like,
now we know how to use our camera, phone. There's the camera. And I never, well, I did, but I never thought of it that way. He actually pointed it out, that the camera's, the width of the phone is a lot deeper than the camera in your MacBook, in the lid. So that makes a lot of sense. And anybody ever done that? I think John did it once.
I used to
Using
do it when I
continuity.
was do it on the MacBook over here because the camera in my iPhone is better than the camera. Now on this, I'm doing it on the 27-inch, and I don't have a way to stick it up there. I used to have a shelf above here, and so I don't do that anymore. But I was using another piece of software because my phone and my computer that I was doing on didn't support it. But there's a third-party piece of software that does make it work. And I was using that for free. And then there's a paid version where you get more featured. And I think it's called Camino. I'm looking for it. Cameo, CAMO Studio. So you can use older phones and older computers, which have probably not as good at cameras, even worse ones. So that it did work. It was better.
Yeah, that's good to hear.
Actually, Apple is still suggesting that Camino thing, because I was looking for a way to get the camera on my iPhone to do this with my iPad.
The other thing is,
not offering anything for that yet.
So what you would do is turn the phone around. Don't use the front-facing camera on the iPhone because the rear-facing cameras are better. So you switch it around, and that's definitely a better camera than the one on your older Macs, unless you got one of the brand new ones with the 1280 cameras. So yeah, that's what I was doing.
Well, that's good. So that's all for me. Next is question and answer.
Okay, so anybody got anything more to say about the videos or the presentation before we start a new recording? Okay, anybody watching this on YouTube, DVMUG members can find the Q&A recording with a link on the BBS. So we'll stop this recording and start a new one.